tayo po ay nagsasaya para sa Pasko, kinakailangan naka-mask, naka-hugas, at naka-iwas. Hindi po kami nagkulang sa pagpapaalala dahil baka mamaya, kung hindi Pasko, ang bagong taon ninyo ay naka-hospital kayo. Wag naman po, para maging merry, kinakailangan mag-ingat. Mabuting balita po ha, gumanda ang consumer outlook ng ating mga kababayan sa huling quarter ng taon. Mula negative 54.5% naging negative 47.9% na lamang po sa fourth quarter ang overall confidence index. Kung sinasabi niyong maliit, maliit po talaga. Pero maya-maya po makikita niyo sa susunod na taon, tumaas naman po ang consumer index natin. Ang improved outlook na ito ay dahil sa expectations ng ating mga kababayan na magkakaroon ng mas maraming trabaho, dagdag na kita, epektibong polisiya at programa tulad ng Social Amelioration Program, ang Plan Program at ang mas maluwag na restriction at muling pagbubukas ng mga negosyo. Ito po yung better good news. Para naman po sa first quarter na susunod na taon, ang consumer index ay bumalik na sa positive territory at 4.3%. Talaga nga namang manigong bagong taon ang inaasahan ng ating mga kababayan. Ang positibong pagtingin sa unang bahagi ng taon ay dala ng inaasahan na mas maraming trabaho, mas mataas na kita, pagbawakas ng pandemya at pagkakaroon ng bakuna laban sa contravirus at muling pagbubukas ng mga negosyo. At mananatiling positibo ang pagtingin sa susunod na 12 buwan na taon at 23.6%. Happy New Year talaga tayo ng 2021. Samantala, tumaas din po ang kumpiyansa ng mga negosyante sa ating ekonomiya. Mula 5.3% sa third quarter ngayong taon ay naging negative po yan mula negative 5.3% sa third quarter ngayong taon ay naging positive 10.6% sa fourth quarter ng taong 2020. Tama po yung sinasabi natin dati pa na we have hit rock bottom, the only way to go is up. Ang pagtaas na ito ay dahil po sa ganitong mga kadahilanan na una, muling nagbukas ang mga negosyo at nag-adapt sa tinatawag na new normal. Pangalawa, ang pagluluwag ng community quarantine sa buong bansa. Pangatlo, ang seasonal factors na tinatawag tulad ng mas dumarami ang demand ngayong holiday season. At panghuli, pagtaas sa volume ng mga benta at mga order. Oo nga pala po, no? At ang paganda ng sentimiento ng mga negosyante ay nagpapatuloy hanggang sa unang bahagi ng susunod na taon. Tataas ito sa 37.4% sa first quarter ng 2021 at magiging maganda ang business outlook sa susunod na 12 buwan at 57.7%. Happy New Year sa lahat. O nga pala po, magsha-shoutout lang ako, no? Sabi po nung reporter ng New York Times sa Pilipinas, i-shoutout ko daw yung mga health workers ng Bacoor. Napakaganda po at napakagaling daw ng kanilang pag-alaga doon sa kanyang 2 anak na nagka-COVID. So congratulations po sa mga health workers ng Bacoor, Cavite. At shoutout na rin po, napakadisiplinado po ng mga taga-Baguio. Yung night market po, lahat po ng tao ngayon ay nag-social distancing. At salamat din po sa napakadaming pulis na nagsisigurado na magkakaroon ng social distancing dyan po sa night market sa Baguio. So po pwede po na bumalik sa mga dati nating gawain gaya ng night market sa Baguio basta mag-social distancing, mag-face mask at mag-face shield. COVID-19 update na naman po tayo. Ito po ang global update ayon sa John Hopkins. Higit 72 million or 72,168,829 na po ang tinimaan ng COVID-19 sa buong mundo. Nasa 1,611,401 katao naman po ang binawian ng buhay dahil sa coronavirus. Nangunguna pa rin po ang Estados Unidos na mayroong 16.2 milyon na mga kaso at 299,093 deaths. Pangalawa po ang India, sumusunod po ang Brazil, Russia at France. Dito naman po sa atin, meron po tayong 21,980 na mga aktibong kaso as of December 13. Ayun po yan sa DOH. Ang mga aktibong mga kaso, sa mga aktibong mga kaso, 90.2% ay mild at symptomatic, 6.3% ay critical, at 3.2% ay severe. Ito naman po ang bilang ng mga gumagaling. Magkakalahating milyon na po or 418,687 ang gumagaling or 93.2% recovery rate. Samantalang nasa 1.94% ang case fatality rate or 8,733 ang biniwian ng buhay dahil sa COVID-19. Nakikiramay po kami. Pumunta naman po tayo sa confirmed COVID-19 cases by adjusted date of onset as of December 13. Mga kaibigan, pababa pa rin po. Pero merong 2 araw na halos magkapareho ang numero for the first time. No? At merong 1 araw na medyo dumami. Pero overall, pababa pa rin po. Ito yung wina-warning natin na baka tayo magkaroon ng surge, no? Dahil nga po sa Christmas season. So hindi pa naman po lumalabas na meron na tayong surge, pero kinakailangan po patuloy tayong mag-ingat, no? Makikita naman po natin na ito naman po yung confirmed COVID-19 cases by adjusted date of onset, no? So by adjusted date of onset nga po, yan, pababa. Pero may 2 araw po yun. Hindi ko lang mabasa na mayroong tumaas at may 2 araw din na halos magkapareho lang. Yung kulay asul, ang Metro Manila po. Berde naman po ang Southern Tagalog, samantalang violet ang Central Luzon. In fairness po, sa Central Luzon, talagang napakalaki na po ng binaba ng mga kaso sa Central Luzon. Sana po patuloy. Puno ba ho ang ating mga ospital? Ayon po sa DOH, 60% available pa po ang ating ICU beds, 64% available ang isolation beds, 71% available ang ward beds, at 80% available ang ventilators. Ngayon po, bagamat inuulit-ulit natin itong mask, hugas at iwas, ngayon pong nagdidiwang tayo at bukas ang mga negosyo, siguro mag-ingat din po tayo. No? Bagamat pwede na tayong lumabas sa mga restaurants hanggang 70%, bawasan po natin yung pagsasalita habang kumakain dahil dyan po talaga nakakahawa. No? Kapag tinanggal ang face mask at ang face shield para kumain, dyan po yung hawahan na nangyayari. So kung po pwede po, tsaka na kayo magchismisan pag nakakain na. Pwede naman kayo magchismisan kapag naglalakad sa mall or habang wala pa yung pagkain. Pero pag nandyan ang pagkain, quiet muna. Dahil baka mamaya, nagdidiwang, magkasakit naman po. Okay. Tapos na po ang ating presentasyon, pero ngayon po, 2 po ang kasama natin, usaping bakuna. Dahil ang usaping bakuna, ang pinakamaganda at pinakahihintay na regalo ng buong Pilipinas. Kung hindi man dumating sa 25 ng Disyembre, darating sa first quarter ng 2021. Unahin po muna natin si Vaccine Czar, Secretary Galvez, at Secretary Carlito Galvez. Sir, ang tanong po ng marami, nakikita na po yung pagbabakuna ng Pfizer sa Inglaterra at nabalita na rin po ang Pfizer na-approve na rin on the basis of emergency use authorization sa Amerika. Tayo po sa Pilipinas, meron ba ho tayong pagbabago dun sa ating mga target dates? Ano hong aasahan na ating kababayan sa inaasahan nating Happy New Year ng 2021? Sir, the floor is yours.
Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Magandang tanghali po sa inyo, Secretary Roque, at sa ating mga nakikinig at sa ating mga media friends. Sa ngayon po, patuloy po ang ating intensive na negotiation sa siyam na kumpanya na kasama na po dito ang Pfizer at saka AstraZeneca. So sa ngayon po, mayroon po tayong at least advance, nag-ano po tayo, tinatawag na advance negotiation sa 4 po na malaking kumpanya. At patuloy po ang exploratory talks sa other 5 companies. At nakikita po natin na talagang sa ngayon po may mga challenges po tayo. Unang-una, nakita po natin na talagang yung mga vaccines ay 80% po ay nakuha na po ng mayayamang country. But we are very hopeful na yung clarion call ng ating mahal na Pangulo na magkaroon ng tinatawag na equitable access ay ginagawa po natin. Sa ngayon po, most probably baka magkaroon po tayo ng vaccine ng first quarter, most probably March, and then also ang mga second tranches po naman natin is second quarter, third quarter, at saka fourth quarter. But we are expecting na yung volumes ng ating mga vaccine will be coming up the early third quarter.
Sir, tanong ko lang po at marami po nagpapatanong sa akin ito, meron na ba ho tayong pirmadong kasunduan na magsisiguro na pagdating ng Marso, meron na po tayong bakuna? At kung wala pa po, kailan po natin pipirmahan yan? Dahil baka maraming mabigo na umaasa ng Marso, meron ng bakuna na pauna, baka hindi po natin magawa yan.
Nakita po natin yung pinaka-advance nakita natin yung Pfizer na may 4 na po na EUA sa mga tinatawag nating stringent regulatory authority sa US, sa Canada, and also dito sa UK. So sa ngayon po talagang puspusan po yung negotiation po natin sa Pfizer, and also we are waiting yung EUA sa UK ng AstraZeneca. Pagka lumabas po yun ay malaki po ang makukuha po natin sa AstraZeneca. And sa Sinovac po, nag-usap po kami ni Madam Helen Yang, yung pinaka-lead sa Asia Pacific from Hong Kong. And very positive naman po yung negotiation po natin. And also, ang J&J po, tomorrow we might be meeting again. And hopefully magkaroon na po kami ng konting initial agreement sa mga head of terms at saka supply agreement po.
So sa ngayon po, wala pa tayong napipirmahang kasunduan pero ongoing ang mga negotiations. Would you say po that within the month of December, meron na tayong mapipirmahan or will this be in January?
Ang po natin, pagka lumabas po kasi yung EUA yung tinatawag ng emergency use authorization ng originating country, yun po ang pinaka-queue po natin. Dahil kasi with the regulatory requirement ng ating multilateral arrangement with the Asian Development Bank at saka yung World Bank. Kasi po lahat ng procurement po natin will be through multilateral arrangement with the Asian Development Bank and also with World Bank, and they require yung mga tinatawag nating stringent regulatory compliance. So yun po, nakikita po natin na karamihan po sa mga ating pirmahan is baka po na may pinipilit po na magkaroon kami ng initial success this December and mostly po mga January po, dahil kasi po yung ating mga kinokontrata po ng mga vaccine ay makakaroon po na tinatawag na EUA this coming January pa.
Okay, maraming salamat Secretary Galvez. Please join us in the open forum dahil sigurado po ako maraming tanong po ang ating mga kasama sa Malacanang Press Corps. With us also is Ambassador Chito Santarumana. Ambassador, are you in the house already?
Yes, Secretary Harry.
Ambassador, alam niyo po, gaya ng sinabi po ni Secretary Galvez, yung mga Western brands ng bakuna, halos 80% po nabili na ng mga mayayamang bansa at kakaunti na lang yung para sa mga bansa na gaya ng Pilipinas. So dito po pumapasok yung kasunduan ng ating presidente with President Xi na nangako po si President Xi na sisiguraduhin niya na mabibigyan tayo ng vaccine na galing sa China. Doon po sa mga gusto ng Western brands, talaga pong mas mauuna ang Chinese brand kaysa sa Western brand. Pero Ambassador, ngayong mga panahon na nag-uunahan sa bakuna, gaano po nating dapat asahan yung pangako ni President Xi na mabibigyan tayo ng prioridad pagdating po sa supply ng mga bakuna na galing po sa China? The floor is yours, Ambassador Santarumana.
Well, the offer stands from the Chinese leadership, no? See, President Xi reiterated this to the president during their phone conversation several months ago. Pero this was reiterated by Foreign Minister Wang Yi to the Foreign Secretary just last October, and also during our recent meetings with Chinese officials, this has also been reiterated. Ang importante ngayon, I think the Chinese, there are actually 3 or 4 Chinese companies that are in the advanced stage ng clinical trial. In China, actually, yung emergency use authorization have been granted to 3 companies since July. So as of now, nearly at least 1 million Chinese have already been administered yung vaccination, the COVID vaccine. And what they are waiting for now is yung authorization for general use, which the applications have been submitted to the Chinese government, and the health authorities, I think, are expected to issue an announcement shortly, or hopefully before the end of the year. Now, insofar as yung priority ng Philippines, the priority stands. The question is, during the discussion between Sinovac and the Philippine side, ang question is, what are the procedures of Philippines for procurement? They are ready to supply, pero importante magkaroon ng continuing talks, which is what General Galvez said, no? The talks are going on. And so we hope that the talks can advance so that the deployment, the procurement and deployment can happen. The Chinese authorities have announced that they are ramping up production. No? Of course, they have to meet their own domestic demand, pero they want to ramp up to roughly 500 million doses, no? Within not all within this year, but within the next 12 months. So, considering our needs, no, we just have to. We have already. There have been initial discussions on this, pero kailangan i-finalize as the Chinese. You know, we're not the only priority country. Of course, other Asian countries are involved, and there are other countries in the Middle East, in Africa, in Latin America. Kaya iniintay yung ating request, no? Exactly what our needs are, and so that the procurement and deployment can happen.
Maraming salamat, Ambassador. Siguro ako na magtatanong ng first question kay Sec Charlie. Sec Charlie, kailan ba ho yung huling usapan natin with Sinovac at kailan po yung susunod na usapan natin para magkaroon lang po ng peace of mind ang ating mga kababayan na magkakaroon talaga ng kasunduan para hindi naman po tayo mahuli, at least para sa Sinovac na tinatarget natin na mapabakuna sa ating mga kababayan by the first quarter of 2021. Sir?
Yung last meeting po namin ni Madam Helen Yang at saka yung Sinovac team from Hong Kong was last Friday, and it was very substantial. Yung sinabi nga po ni Ambassador Chito Santo Romana na we have already conveyed to them our needs. Ang needs natin, sabi namin, is 25 million for 2021 for Sinovac only. And we are exploring also on other brand like Sinopharm and CanSino. But right now, considering that Sinovac is one of the biggest company and they have a huge volume to be distributed in ASEAN, we confirmed that we will be needing 25 million, and the meeting was very conclusive, and also the ambassador of China here, Ambassador Wang Xinlian, is also coordinating with them, and they also emphasize we are in dire need of vaccine for the first quarter, especially first quarter.
Last question ko na lang po sa inyo, Secretary Galvez. Kailan po yung susunod na pagpupulong with Sinovac?
Most likely this week, and we want to finalize it this week, our final negotiation, so that we can firm up the head of terms, and also we are looking at the exact time of the distribution. But they said they are very confident that they will have the resources on April. But we are negotiating that March will be our target.
Salamat, Secretary Galvez. Yung sinabi niyo po na you're hoping to finalize by next week with Sinovac, that's a very good Christmas gift po para sa ating mga kababayan. Buksan na po natin ang ating open forum with the members of the Malacanang Press Corps. Yusek Roque, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Secretary Roque, at sa mga bisita po. Tanong mula kay Rose Binario ng Hataw, sang-ayon po ba ang palasyo na ilagay ng Department of Health sa kanilang website ang exact COVID-19 PCR test ng 191 licensed public and private laboratories sa buong bansa upang magkaroon ng pagpipilian ang mamamayan?
100% supportive po, at sana ilagay din dun sa listahan kung mayroong extra charge yung certification para alam nila kung magkano yung kabuuang babayaran for a PCR test and the certification.
Ang second question po ni Rose Novenario ng Hataw, pabor bang Malacanang sa panawagan ni Surigao del Sur representative para sa absolute pricing transparency sa COVID-19 PCR test dahil ang kawalan nito'y nagre-resulta sa paglobo ng presyo?
100% po kaming supportive dyan, at sa susunod na press briefing, ipapalabas na naman po namin yung mga laboratorio na nagsisingil lamang ng 1,700 hanggang 2,000 pesos nationwide. No? Para nga po merong freedom of choice ang ating mga kababayan.
Ang third question po niya, nakatanggap si Representative Pimentel ng ilang private hospital ang ipinadadala sa public laboratories ang nakuhang specimen sa kanilang pasyente para sa COVID-19 testing. Pero napakataas ang singil sa pasyente, gayong mababa lang ang presyong ibinabayad sa public laboratory. Ano na daw ang ginagawa ni Testing Czar Vince Dizon sa mga ganitong problema?
Well, ang sabi po ni Testing SAR, he welcomes po no, yung absolute transparency at kung i-report niyo po sa amin kung ano yung mga private labs sa mataas ang singil na gumagamit din naman ng mga public labs, ipagbigay alam po ninyo sa amin yan dahil parang hindi naman dapat na napakataas ng singil nila. In any case, meron na po tayong price cap, di ba po? No? So nagkaroon na tayo ng executive order. So hindi na po sila po pwedeng sumingil na mas mataas, pero kung po pwedeng mas mababa, bakit naman po hindi? Dapat siguro admin charge na lang ang singilin nila kung public laboratories din naman po ang gagamitin nila.
Thank you, Secretary.
Punta tayo kay Melo Acuña, please.
Good afternoon, Secretary. Good afternoon and thank you. My first question is for you. Nabanggit po sa tapatan sa aristocrat kanina ng PCCI at ng ICC na kailangan magkaroon ng policy ang pamahalaan na isahang policy na lamang tungkol sa health protocols upang mabuhay ang turismo at ang airline industry. Meron kasing ibang kalakaran yung LGUs, baka raw mas magandang isa na lang, Secretary.
Well, matagal na po yan kinukonsidera ng inyong IATF at pinag-uusapan. No? Sa ngayon po kasi, talagang meron po tayong batas na nagbibigay ng local autonomy sa ating mga LGUs at hindi natin sila po pwedeng paghimasukan. Pero tingin ko po, yung ginagawa ng mga Metro Manila mayors can be a model. No? Kung magkakaroon sana po ng consensus ang lahat ng mga mayor, ang mga gobernador para sa isang common policy, yan po ay makakatulong talaga sa pagbukas ng ekonomiya at pagsigla ng ating sektor ng turismo. So we are in favor pero we are working with the existing legal framework.
Opo, salamat po. Para po kay Secretary Galvez, binalita po ng Asian Development Bank na merong $9 bilyong na inilalaan para sa mga developing member countries upang matustusan ang pangangailangan sa bakuna. Gagamit po ba ang Pilipinas mula rito sa facility mula sa Asian Development Bank? Saan po galing ang salaping gagastusin natin? Salamat po.
Yun po, meron na pong binigay po sa atin na pwede po tayong gumamit ng hanggang 300 to 500 million. Aside from the ADB, meron po tayong 300 to 500 million dollars na pwede rin pong utangin po sa World Bank. So more or less po ang ano po ng Department of Finance is $1 billion from this multilateral arrangement.
I see. Meron po nagsasabi sa iba't ibang news agencies na inaasahang tataas ang bilang ng mga may COVID-19 matapos ang Pasko at Bagong Taon. Do you share the same opinion, Secretary Galvez?
Yes, actually nakita po natin na yung sa Manila, may umangat na po yung tinatawag natin na kanilang active cases. Sa ngayon nga po, baka ma-breach po natin yung 3,000 kasi nung dati 2,500 na lang. And nakita po namin nung nag-report po ang Okta Research dito po sa IATF na tumataas na rin po yung R0. So yun po nakikita natin na sinasabihan nga po natin na gagawa nga po ang IATF na recommendation to our President na magkaroon po na tinatawag na announcement to be extra cautious this coming holidays.
Opo, pahabol ko lamang kay Ambassador Chito Santa Romana. Magandang tanghali po, Ambassador. Nice seeing you. Let me just ask you, are you familiar, nilabas na po ba ng China yung kanilang phase 3 ng scientific data sa kanilang mga bakuna na nagkaroon ng trials, Ambassador?
Ganito, yung phase 1 and phase 2 the results have been published in Lancet, no? And yung phase 3, nung inumpisa ng phase 3, the Chinese basically here already controlled. We're already able to control the virus. Kaya that's why they needed to go. No, at least 15 countries abroad where the phase 3 trial, the clinical trials were held. Mm-hmm. We have the results have been announced in Bahrain, UAE. No, tapos yung Brazil, it's going on now. The application for general use, including the data for phase 3. have been submitted to the Chinese government, and that's what we're waiting for right now. I think the data is being evaluated by the Chinese authorities, and this will be the basis for yung kanilang authorization for general use na. Kasi yung emergency use, since July pa, sa China. And that's why, as I said, at least 1 million Chinese have already been administered. And from the emergency use, although anecdotal yung binigay nilang data, what they have announced is that walang adverse incident, and basically there were some minor side effects, no? Yung a pain in the place where the vaccination was done, a soreness, pero walang adverse incident that they reported. So what we're looking forward is that they will also release the results when they
Yes.
Your answer?
Ah,
Okay.
may-
Babalikan po natin si Ambassador if we can have a connection again.
Yeah,
Si
salamat
Ambassador
po,
Chito
Secretary.
Santa Romana, of course, is live from Beijing, China, no? Okay.
Salamat po, Secretary.
Balikan po natin si Ambassador mamaya-maya. Balik tayo kay Yusek Roque, please.
Opo, Secretary, may tanong dito from Jason Torres of New York Times, pero para kay Ambassador Santa Romana, mamaya-maya na lang po pag nakabalik na siya. From Chris Jose of Remate Online, reaction po, Secretary, sa panukala ni Senator Laila de Lima na isulong ang libreng pagpapabukuna sa mga Pilipino laban sa COVID-19 at makapagtatag ng ligtas at efficient na sistema para sa distribution at delivery ng bakuna. Kailangan daw na magarantiya ang libreng bakuna para sa lahat ng mga Pilipino na may karapatan sa kalusugan. Tulad daw ng vaccine efficacy ay mahalaga rin daw ang vaccine coverage.
Well, salamat po kay Senadora kasi inulit lang yan po ang sinabi na ng Presidente.
Question from Edith Kaduaya of newsline.ph Davao Media. Nag-ask ang family ni Dr. Casey Gutierrez, yung pong PNP doctor na namatay while on duty sa COVID facility. Hindi pa daw po nabibigyan ng financial support, pinapaasa lang ng DOH.
Perhaps we can contact either Secretary Duque, no, he's presiding over an IATF meeting. Siguro si Yusek Vergere, para siya nang sumagot ngayon dito, no, para diretso na niyang sagutin. Pero alam ko po, nagbigay na ng tulong dyan si Senator Bongo, kung hindi ako nagkakamali. But kung totoo pong hindi pa nabibigay, I'm a bit surprised kasi kaya nga po nagbigay ng paunang tulong si Senator Bongo dahil nga po nadidelay ata yung ayuda galing sa DOH. But can we contact Yusek Vergere now please para may solution kaagad. Nandiyan na ba ho si Ambassador Chito Santa Romana? Ambassador, are you back? Ambassador? Okay, wala pa. Next please. Trish Tirada of CNN Philippines please. Trish Tirada. Joseph Morong.
Hi, sir.
Akala ko wala ka ng tanong, Joseph.
Pwede Monday. Okay,
Sabi
sir.
ko, Pasko
First,
na, wala nang tanong si Joseph Morong. Okay.
hindi, I'm taking a leave in January, so...
So,
Anyway,
may tanong pa
so,
hanggang
sir,
January, ha? Okay.
yeah, hanggang December 30.
Okay.
So, ganito.
Mark
yung
that in
R0
your calendars, please. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
So, yung R0 natin, from government perspective, ano yung figure natin?
Ang huling tingin ko po dyan, let me see. Meron ba sa slides natin ngayon? Sandali because we have the
Wala na.
updated figures as of December 13. Wala bang R0? Pero I have dun sa last nating slides. Yung last hindi, kailan ba yung last Talk to the People? Last Thursday. Oh, yung last Thursday natin, ha? I believe it is still under 1, no? And of course, the goal is to become under 1, which we have achieved.
The reason, sir, I ask is that right now, yung Okta has a figure of 1.06 as of probably this is December 13. That's coming from 0.99. So obviously nagja-jump, no? First question ko is, ibig bang sabihin yan, sir, hindi naggumagana yung mga health protocols natin, in the sense na hindi nasusunod yung mga health protocols natin? And given that, meron ba tayong gagawing paghigpit? Because obviously, at this point, parang hindi gumagana yung mga health protocols natin, but moving into the holidays, we can expect tataas pa yan. So, any mga paghihigpit, talagang paghihigpit na gagawin ng government to stem the rise of number of cases, at least in the NCR, kasi yun yung medyo epicenter, no?
Well, Joseph, kung totoo yung figures ng OCTA, and I'd like to remind the public, wala naman sariling figures po ang OCTA. Kinukuha lang nila sa Department of Health, no? So, wala po silang sariling figures. It is still government that gets the figures. Pero kung totoo po na naging 0.98 ba yun? O 96?
1.06.
I know, from 0.98?
99.
From 0.99 to 1.06. Hindi naman po malaking pagtaas yan, no? Pero at the same time, it is telling us na kinakailangan mag-ingat po tayo, no? Dahil meron ng bahagyang pagtaas. At ito po ay bago pa umabot doon sa kasagsagan ng pagdiriwang ng Pasko. So ang atin po ay patuloy na paalala para po mag-Merry Christmas, para mag-Happy New Year. Ipatuloy po natin ang pagsunod sa minimum health standards, mask, hugas, iwas, at additionally, maging conscious po tayo na miski na nasa restaurants na at tayo kumakain na walang mask, wala na muna siguro pong salitaan na marami dahil yan po ay nagiging dahilan din ng pagkalat ng Corona-19 virus, no? So, ang sa atin naman po, hindi na po siguro kinakailangan panandalian ang paghihigpit. Bagamat may isang lugar po akong alam ngayon sa norte ng Luzon na humingi na maitaas sana ang classification nila to MECQ, pero ang naging desisyon naman po ay GCQ, no? But I will have to wait until the resolution is approved before I can announce kung anong probinsya po yan, no? Pero sa ngayon po, paalala lang po. Para naman tayo po ay hindi nasa ospital pagdating ng bagong taon ng Pasko.
It's 9 o'clock.
Mag-ingat pa rin po tayo, sumunod sa minimum health standards. Ang pagkalat po ng COVID-19 ngayong Kapaskuhan, nakasalalay po sa kamay ng mga kababayan natin.
Sir, but from an enforcement point of view, because obviously, even if you remind them, we still have an increasing R0. So, for example, yung mga LGU, at what point can they trigger a return to an MECQ?
Ang tinitignan po natin talaga dyan ay yung critical care capacity.
Okay.
Kapag nauubos na po yung mga ICU beds, yung ating mga ward beds at iba pang mga facilities, no? At sa ngayon po, maluwag naman po tayo, no? Pero hindi po yan dahilan para nga magpabaya, no? So, yan naman po yung mga triggers natin for escalation. Yung increase sa daily attack rates, sa increase ng 2-week average daily attack rate, yung epekto sa ekonomiya, at saka siyempre po yung critical care capacity na napaka-importante.
And of course, the LGU, even during, halimbawa, from today until maybe January 7, they can on their own lock down specific areas, no? That's within their power. And you will hope that they can do that if mataas talaga yung cases, no?
That is our policy po ngayon, no? Na paloob sa IATF resolution, ang ating strategiya, magre-resort po tayo sa localized and granular lockdown. Pero paulit-ulit po ako, ultimately, taong bayan po magdedesisyon kung dadami o kokonti ang COVID-19 sa Kapaskuhan. Pero mga kaibigan, 9 na buwan na tayong naka-lockdown. Konting antay na lang. Kaya nga nandito si Ambassador Chito Santa Romana at babalik po tayo sa kanya kasi meron siyang sinabi na hindi natin narinig at merong isang tanong si Jason. Jason, nag-shoutout na ako sa Bacoor health workers. Sinoutout ko na sila na congratulations for a job well done. Ambassador Santa Romana, we did not hear the last part of your answer po kanina. And we have one question from Jason of New York Times. Go ahead, Ambassador.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Am
we
I
can
coming
hear you,
in
sir.
loud and clear? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I think what where I was cut off was when I was saying what we're awaiting now is the announcement from the Chinese authorities on the authorization for general use of the vaccine. And part of this, of course, is yung data that the Sinovac, Sinopharm, and other have submitted for in their application, which is actually the phase 3 trial, no, yung clinical data that Melo was talking about. Kasi what we have is really what's in the media and what's been reported, because the Chinese conducted most of the, if not all of their phase 3 clinical trials abroad. Kasi when they started it, under control na dito yung virus, so they needed to test it, and also to test it with other nationalities, non-Chinese, no? Kaya that's why they went to like 15 countries around the world, no? From Turkey, from Brazil, Indonesia. It's too bad na hindi kasama ang Philippines dyan, although may application ang Sinovac for phase 3 clinical trials sa Philippines din, no? So that's what I wanted to say. Na that's what we are waiting for right now.
Ambassador, may tanong po si Jason Torres of the New York Times. Ambassador, please give us an update on Sinopharm vaccine trials after the debacle in Peru, which has suspended trials there after detecting neurological problems in some test subjects.
Well, okay. I saw the news report, no? What has happened is that the authorities reported yung one adverse event. Itong nagkaroon nga lang, I think it affected the arm, the movement of the arm of the volunteer. So they suspended it pending yung examination, whether it's related to the vaccine or whether it's related or not. And it doesn't mean it's been canceled. It may be a temporary suspension. So we have to view it seriously, and we have to look at what happened, and then we'll see kung ano evaluation nila. There was a similar incident also. I mean, other companies that have conducted a clinical trial have experienced this. No, one was of course in UK earlier, and there was also one in Brazil, but the one in Brazil was not related to the vaccine. So the key question is it related to the vaccine or not? And I think at this point that still has to be determined. So I view it as a suspension, not a cancellation, and we have to await the conclusion of the inquiry.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. Let's go back to Joseph Morong dahil meron pa siya isang tanong.
Sir, sa'yo muna. Sir, and also kay Secretary Galvez, I think there's going to be an emerging need to change some of the protocols because some Filipinos abroad, no, for example, the UK or the United States, will be able to get vaccines, no, or mabavaccinate sila, and they will return to the Philippines, no? Paano yung magiging protocol natin for those Filipinos who are returning pero nabakunahan na? Will they still be subject to quarantine protocols, testing protocols once they get here? Pero nabakunahan na sila abroad. Paano po, sir, yung magiging natin doon? And then also, ano ba, sir, yung basis ng 10 gatherings, yung 10 individuals per gatherings? I was trying to look for an ITF resolution to support yung 10 na figure. All I see is the GCQ, 30% for mass gatherings. So those two, sir, yung pong mga Pilipinong nabakunahan babalik sa Pilipinas in the Christmas.
Secretary Galvez.
Definitely, yung protocol natin will kind of change. And we already talked with Yusek Ochi Tuason. So possibility na talagang we have to change it. And we will look on the IATF resolution in the future. So we will make some changes on the recommendation.
So yung Christmas na 10 na figure, individuals, anong IATF resolution ng basis nun? Yung 10 yung allowed for Christmas gatherings?
Ang nakikita natin yung nakita natin yung previous announcement natin for MECQ and GCQ protocols na as much possible yung gatherings talagang nilimit lang natin sa 10 and 20 and even 30% of the tatawag nating capacity of the building. So sa ngayon, nag-usap-usap kami ng mga mayors ng NCR and also with Secretary Anyo. Ang nakita namin talaga in order to have some sort of caution, maximum is possibly 20 and also it should be at the open area.
Open air. So there na, why are we so confident with the Chinese vaccines when they have not finished yung phase 3 trials? Question for you and also Ambassador Chito Santa Romana.
You're asking me, right, Joseph?
Yes, sir. Both of you, sir. But how are you doing, sir? Sir, yung pong question ko is, why are we confident? Why are we relying on the Chinese vaccines when they have not finished yung phase 3 clinical trials nila?
No, as a matter of fact, they've finished in some countries. Others are still proceeding. No, ang Sinopharm actually tapos na sa phase 3. No, Sinovac has finished yung phase 1, phase 2, and have published the results also. Now, yung phase 3 nila, they have an application sa Philippines. Meron ding something happening now in Brazil. What's it? Brazil, Peru, Turkey, Indonesia. No, so they have results that are happening, and then sa China, you're basically going with nearly 1 million Chinese who have undertaken the vaccine. And then they have actually vaccinated their army. No? So I understand we need more systematic data, and I think that is what this has to be approved by our own FDA. And so the basis of confidence is based on the Chinese experience and the experience in other countries, but this has to be validated by our own health authorities. Based on my experience here in China, I've traveled to 4 provinces in the past 3-4 months. In the beginning, I was very skeptical, but I've seen with my own eyes. Of course, they still wear face mask and they still maintain social discipline, but they've been able to hold trade fairs where I had to represent the Philippines. And my experience is they have the situation under control from my own personal experience.
Okay. Galvez?
On my part, we have a continuous briefing with the vaccine expert panel, and I believe the Sinovac has been cleared by the BEP, considering that Sinovac came from classical and traditional inactivated virus. So sa kanila, yung parang tinatawag na traditional for almost 300 years, ginagamit natin yung platform na yon. And most of the platform of the vaccine is inactivated. So sa kanila, parang confident sila na yung adverse effect is controllable. And nakita natin na talagang the Chinese ambassador is very confident na talagang yung Chinese vaccine will be effective, considering that also some of the recipients of trials are also Filipinos abroad. And also, natin sa media, mag-roll out ng Indonesia this coming first quarter most likely.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your time, sirs.
Okay ka na, Joseph, no? You're fine, no? May pahabol lang ako sa Galvez. Kanina po sinabi nyo na we're looking at importing Sinovac, Sinopharm, and a third company, no? Pero this is the first time po na narinig namin from you na we are considering also Sinopharm. So ito na ba ho ang position talaga natin that we will consider not just Sinovac, but also Sinopharm and a third Chinese vaccine?
Yes, actually yung casino kasama sa natin yan dahil kasi kakaroon din sila ng clinical trial. Ang lang natin is yung pinaka-advance kasi na nag-submit ng kanilang mga clinical trials yung Sinovac. And I think yung Sinopharm, we need to require them to submit yung mga requirements. Sa ngayon kasi ang pinaka-advance na na-cleared na ng BEP at saka yung Board of Review Board is Sinovac. So once na sinabihan na kami ng BEP na we are cleared to negotiate, yun po ang inano po namin. So priority namin ng Sinovac, one is medyo 3 times lower sa tinatawag na sa Sinopharm. At saka yung kanyang production line is capable siyang mag-produce para sa atin ng more or less, kung magkaroon po magandang negotiation is 20 million. So yun po ang inano po natin kasi the directive of the President is to make the vaccine accessible to the public, and kaya po natin doon yung safety, efficacy at saka yung affordability po titingnan po natin.
Ambassador, since nandito naman po kayo, no? You mentioned that Sinopharm already concluded its clinical trial, pero sabi ni Secretary Galvez, hindi naman sila nagsasubmit ng data sa panel of experts natin. No? Can the embassy make representations po kaya with Sinopharm to comply with the requirements of the expert panel group?
Yes, the embassy is in touch with Sinopharm. We've been having contacts with them, and our work really is to facilitate yung contact between Sinopharm and IATF as well as the health authorities. And we will certainly do this. We'll tell them what the requirements are and we'll urge them to submit them as soon as possible. Actually, Sinopharm told us that they're no longer in a position to hold phase 3 clinical trials in the Philippines. So for them to be able for us to be able to procure from them, ang importante nga is kung anong requirements natin, and then they'll submit the data that they have to satisfy our requirements.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you, Secretary Galvez. Thank you, Joseph. We go back to you, Sec Roque, please.
A question from MJ Blanca Flor of Daily Tribune for Secretary Roque. How will you respond to criticisms on the 72.5 billion budget for COVID-19 vaccines in the 2021 spending plan? Senator Drilon is saying that only 2.5 billion lang po dito ang funded, and yung remaining funds daw po ay wala pang definite revenue source. Sinabi naman po ng camp ni Vice President Robredo na wala pong sense of urgency ang admin in terms of budget for COVID-19 vaccine. Ano po ang masasabi niyo dito?
Senator Drilon, Vice President, malayo pa po ang eleksyon, tigil ang politika. Paulit-ulit na po sinabi natin yan, no? Na tayo po ay makakautang na sa multilateral sources, sa bilateral sources, para po sa 72.5 billion na kakailanganin. Kaya po linalagay sa budget yan, miski utangin, kung hindi nasa budget, hindi po pwede gastusin. And I'm sure Senator Drilon knows about this already, having been a veteran lawmaker. The same thing goes for the Vice President. They should know how the budget works. Kinakailangan na sa budget, otherwise hindi magagastos, maski ang panggagalingan ay uutangin.
Sir, pwede ako makasagot kasi mas alam po namin
Yes,
yung
sir.
yung sa yung pwede po namin na sabihin sa kanila na meron po tayong apat na na tinatawag nating means on how to access yung funds. At ang po talaga natin na pag-agrihan po namin para maging transparent at saka talagang sure tayo na walang corruption at saka talagang very diligent na gagawin natin. Ang ating magiging fund manager at saka fund procurement agent will be ADB. So lahat ng vaccine ay doon po sa multilateral, which is basically lahat ng mga countries, ginamit po nila ang multilateral system. Hindi pwede po natin magamit yung 2021 budget kasi kailangan po ngayon pong December at saka January magsara po yung ating advance market commitment. Kung 2021 po yung gagamitin po natin na budget na nilaan po na 72 billion, we will be on the tailing end of the supply chain. So ang gagamitin po natin sa ating procurement ng vaccine para malaman po ng publiko ay yung $1 billion na inallocate po ni Secretary Dominguez na noong pang July pa po siya binigyan po ng instruction ng ating mahal na presidente to produce the money for the vaccine. So yung pera po na yon ay nanggaling po sa ADB, yung $1 billion, at saka po yung manghihiram po din po tayo sa Development Bank of the Philippines at saka po sa ating Land Bank at saka yung GOCC. So yung procurement po ay si DOF po ang naghanap po ng pera. At yung ating pong yung ating pong tinatawag na GAA, gagamitin po natin po yung pangbili ng mga consumables, yung mga syringes at saka mobilization po. Dahil kasi po, yun po magagamit po natin mga pa po siguro March. Nakita po natin yung budget cycle, yung ating GAA. Magagamit po natin yan March.
Well, actually, Secretary Galvez, natutunan ko yan kay Senator Drilon na kinakailangan ilagay sa budget miski uutangin dun sa North Rail case kasi isa yan dun sa basihan na pareho kami ni Senator Drilon ay tumutol dun sa legality ng North Rail project. No? So kaya po nasa budget yan. No? Miski wala pang revenue source, meron naman po kasing plano talaga na pagkunan. At ito nga po yung mga ADB lending facility. Yes, next question please.
Question po ni MJ Blanca Flor pa rin para po kay Secretary Galvez. Based on the report of the Duke Global Health Innovation Center in the US, majority of promising COVID-19 vaccines are either both or reserved for developed countries. Some rich countries like Canada have also both enough vaccine doses to immunize their populations 3 times over. Meron po tayong COVAX pero a portion lang din po ng kabuang vaccines ang marireserve ng COVAX. Do you agree po na lip service lang ng developed countries itong promise of solidarity on equitable and universal access on COVID vaccines? Do you find this alarming for developing countries like the Philippines?
Yung kaya po nakita po natin ang ating mahal na Pangulo ay talagang he is having yung tinatawag na global clarion call for equitable access kasi nga po nakita po niya talagang 18% na lang po natira po sa atin. Kaya po may mga countries na nag-respond that they are willing to help us, especially Australia and also China and also Russia. At yung ibang mga countries na nakita natin na may matibay na diplomatic relationship sa atin, ay also responded. And I believe yung mga countries na nag-reserve po na yun po i-reserve po nila sa mga allied countries din po nila.
Well, kaya
Thank
po
you, Secretary Galvez.
pwede ako magdagdag. No? Kaya po importante yung naging pagkakaibigan natin sa bansang China, Russia, at even India. No? Dahil bagamat hindi sila mayayamang mga bansa, sila ay nagpo-produce din ng mga bakuna at sila naman nagsasabi sa kapwa nilang mga hindi masyadong mayaman ng mga bansa gaya ng Pilipinas na bibigyan din tayo ng bakuna. Okay, Tristrada, I think she's here now.
Yes, sir. Hi, sir. Good afternoon, Secretary. Sorry na wala po yung connection kanina. I think, sir, you've answered already most of my questions. But isang singit lang, sir. Yung cabinet meeting po ba will push through mamaya po?
Yes, 5 o'clock this afternoon.
All right, Secretary. Sir, thank you po. Sir, may I please go to Secretary Galvez,
Yes, please. Go
All
ahead.
right. Hi, good afternoon, Sec. Charlie. Sir, you mentioned that yun nga po, rich countries already have 80% of the vaccine supplies. Sir, ang question ko, is this because they are rich or were they more prepared and forward-looking? Or could we have been more ready or as ready as them?
Ang nakikita po natin kasi yung mga bansa nito, sila nag-finance po ng tinatawag nating vaccine production. And normally talaga pong sila po tinatawag na merong inherent rights na sila muna ang mababakunahan. But I believe yung nakikita rin natin, tingnan din natin yung production line. Na talagang maraming challenges sa production line. Though kahit na meron silang advanced market commitment, ay kailangan din ng mga raw materials yung mga vaccine producers. And the shortfall that some of experts have said that the shortfall will be more or less 2 to 3 billion populations ang hindi mababakunahan this coming 2021. But we believe that this mid-2022, with the applications of many vaccine makers being approved, ay lalaki po yung tinatawag nating supply market. So ngayon po kasi medyo tingnan po natin din, hindi lang po yung 80% na nakuha ng tingnan din po natin ay sa ngayon, out of 200 na vaccine makers, iisa pa lang ang na-approvean, which is Pfizer. And it affects yung production capacity ng mga even vaccine makers kasi hindi sila makapagbuelo kung wala pa yung approval.
Mm-hmm. Sir, yung AstraZeneca po, di ba po nag-withdraw sila ng application for clinical trials. Will this in any way affect their credibility? At least, at saka yung procurement din natin, sir?
Ang nakita ko, hindi naman sila nag-withdraw. Inaantay lang ang approval. Either ang gagamitin yung single shot initially, yung tinatawag na half dose, full dose. Kasi tapos na po sila ng tinatawag nating full dose requirement. So malaki na po ang nagawa po nila. So most likely, naghihintay lang po sila ng queue from their headquarters kung ang clinical trial po nagagawin po sa atin is yung half dose, full dose na regimen. Kasi talaga sila parang nag-withdraw. But ang lang po nila is yung kanilang submission for the regulatory evaluation ay already being complete on the full dose. So yun po ang inaantay po nila yung guidance kung what will be the regimen that they will be using dito sa atin.
Pero sir, kahit po mabigyan po sila ng EUA sa atin dito, ibig sabihin tuloy pa rin naman po yung clinical trials with them dito po sa bansa natin.
I'll ask Ma'am Lotis yung pinaka-outer rep nila. Parang yun na I think there is a misconception of withdrawal. Ang po natin is nakita natin na sila pa nga ipinakita natin na pinaka-mabilis na nag-process for clinical trial. And I believe it doesn't affect yung negotiation natin because they have already committed a certain huge amount of volume that they can be given to us. Ang inaantay na lang po natin is yung AUA ng UK na parang maging signal natin for them to be qualified doon sa natawag natin sa stringent regulatory arrangement with ADB and World Bank.
Salamat po, Secretary Galvez. Thank you, spokes.
Trish, siguro lilinawin ko na rin, no? Ang clinical trial ay required kapag wala pang bansa na nagbibigay ng kahit anong permission to use a new vaccine. So ngayong meron ng mga bansa na nag-i-issue ng emergency use authorization, that vaccine can be used kung mag-a-apply din ng emergency use authorization sa Pilipinas. At ito nga yung importansya ng executive order na pinirmahan ng Presidente authorizing the FDA to issue emergency use authorization. Now, a clinical trial is always preferred kapag wala pang kahit anong regulatory approval kasi malalaman yung epekto sa Pilipino talaga kasi baka naman may pagkakaiba kung dahil sa lahi, no? Pero it is not required dahil may mga bakuna na mabibigyan na ng general use authorization na pwede na rin mag-apply sa Pilipinas basta isubmit yung general use authorization o yung emergency use authorization nila na subject naman to review ng FDA. Kaya nga po mapapabilis yung proseso from 6 months to 21 days kasi re-reviewin lang nila yung mga datos na sinumite doon sa foreign jurisdiction na nag-issue ng either general use authorization or ng emergency use authorization. Okay?
Thank you, spokes. Salamat
Thank you.
po.
Let's go back to you, Sec. Roque, please.
Yes, question from Creseline Catarong ng SMNI. Muli daw pong ipinatutupad ng MMDA simula ngayong araw ang track ban sa major thoroughfare ng Metro Manila. Ang grupo ng mga truckers, sinabi nilang hindi raw po sila nakonsulta hinggil dito. Aapila po sila na huwag magkaroon ng track ban. Posible po kayang pagbigyan ang kanilang panawagan.
Nako, pakitanong na lang po yan sa MMDA because allegedly it's an MMDA decision at hindi naman po nagma-micromanage ang ating presidente. Pakitanong na lang po sa MMDA.
Second question po niya, inanunsyo po kamakailan ng DILG na nasa 1,546 LGUs nationwide ang nagdeklara sa CPP, NPA, NDF bilang persona non grata sa kanilang mga lokalidad. Aligasyon naman ng Communist Party of the Philippines, pinipilit umano ng DILG ang LGUs na ideklara ang CPP, NPA, NDF bilang persona non grata na agad naman pong pinasinungalingan ng DILG. Ano daw po ang komento nyo dito?
Talagang wala pong basihan yung ganyang paratang laban sa DILG. Unang-una, hindi naman po DILG at mga LGUs ang nagdedeklara sa kanila na persona non grata. Ang unang-una, US State Department, ang tawag nga nila sa CPP, NBA, terorista. Okay, kung ikay terorista, i-welcome mo pa ba sila? Huwag silang magalit sa mga LGU na nagparata na sila ay persona non grata dahil in this civilized world, wala po talagang humahanga sa mga terorista. Kaya kayo, ibaba nyo ng inyong armas, magtutok na lang kayo sa parliamentary struggle, nahahalal naman kayo sa Kongreso, damihan yung hanay nyo ron, nang sa ganoon magkaroon ng pagbabago. Tigil na po yung patayan, lalong-lalo na kung papatayin nyo naman, kapwa nyong mahirap na Pilipino rin.
Opo. Question from Eileen Taliping of Abante Tonight para po kay Secretary Galvez. Kumusta na po ang testing ng gobyerno? Tuloy-tuloy pa rin po ba ito? Hindi na kasi visible lately si testing czar Vince Dizon. May initial assessment na po ba ang task force sa possible COVID spike sa pangangalahati ng holiday season?
Sa ngayon po, tuloy-tuloy po yung ating pag-testing. Nag-a-average po tayo na from 20,000 to 30,000 a day at nakakaano po tayo na more or less more than 5 million na po ang nag-test natin. Continuing pa rin po ang testing natin kasi ang nagagawa po natin ngayon, yung ating strategy na PDITR ay continue pa rin po. So sa mga areas na tumataas ngayon at nakita po natin yung bandang north area ng Cordillera at saka itong Isabela ay medyo may umaangat pero nandun na po si Secretary Vince Dizon. Nandiyan po si Secretary Vince Dizon, siya po ang tumatakbo at nagre-response para po sa mga areas na nagkaroon po ng spike. At hindi lang po, very visible po si Secretary Vince Dizon in terms of yung responding. Nung isang linggo nga po, pumunta po siya sa Ilocos para tulungan po natin yung mga nangangailangan po doon. At lastly po, yung sa Lawag po. So, siya po ang umiikot sa mga different areas na nagkakaroon po ng transmission na mataas po.
And in my
Thank you,
capacity
Secretary.
as co-chair of the Vince Dizon Fans Club, in fairness po, talagang hindi lang siya makarating dito sa ating mga press briefing, whether be it live or online, kasi nga po, sunod-sunod yung mga lugar na binibisita niya para magbigay ng tulong po. Ito po yung lugar na nagkakaroon ng bahagyang pagtaas po ng mga kaso. No? Ganun pa man, ay sabi nga po ni Sec Galvez, halos 6 na milyon na po ang ating testing. One of the highest na po tayo in the whole world on a per capita basis. Pierre Nada, please.
Hi, sirs. Good afternoon. First question is for all the officials present, if possible. There's a paper, sir, that came out from Singapore. It's a Singapore-based institute called the Yusof Ishak Institute. And the paper is saying that China's vaccine diplomacy is not unconditional. And in fact, China could be using its vaccines to put pressure on developing countries when it comes to certain sensitive geopolitical issues. So my question is, how do we avoid the scenario in which China uses its COVID-19 vaccines to pressure countries like us, the Philippines, on our stance in the South China Sea?
I will respond and then turn over the floor to Ambassador Chito Santa Romana. Anong pressure ho nga apply ng China sa atin? Ang ating polisiya po ay pagkakaibigan sa lahat at wala tayong kalaban, independenteng panglabas na polisiya, independent foreign policy. And the President in fact shares many values with the leadership of China, including personal friendship with President Xi. So I think the possibility of using the vaccine as pressure, as far as the Philippines is concerned, is almost nil. But nonetheless, mas alam po ito ni Ambassador Santa Romana. Sir, would you care to comment?
Yes,
Incidentally,
thank
hindi
you.
ko alam
Thank
kung
you.
ano yung think tank na yan sa Singapore. Never heard.
No. I know there is this concern, particularly among certain sectors. No, pero in reality, I think the Chinese have offered this. It's part of their campaign to improve China's standing in the world and to win the hearts and minds of people. As you know, yung ratings ng China, for example, in the Philippines, when it comes to trustworthiness, is quite low. And so the point of this vaccine diplomacy is, on the one hand, yung pledge nila to make it a global public good, to make it available, particularly to their close friends, countries that are friendly to them, neighboring countries. But whether they'll make it as a condition sa geopolitics, that has not come up in a discussion. And I think the Chinese are very clear that when it comes to Philippines, we put it on separate tracks. Where we have differences, we discuss it. But if you're going to use one to press on the other, that will certainly not work under this current administration. So there has been no attempt on the Chinese to link the two together. What is happening is they may be trying to do this to increase their standing in the public, to win the hearts and minds of the public that they are a friendly country, that they mean well, and that they don't want to, they want to be seen as a benign regional power and not as an aggressive or malign power.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, can I go to my second question? This is for Secretary Galvez naman po. Sir, there's an urgent need to secure a supply of the vaccine, sir, as you already explained so many times. But, sir, back in September, when the President rejected the payment of reservation fees because bawal daw sa procurement laws natin, I just wondering, did that lead you to hold back from giving vaccine firms a commitment on paying for a supply?
No, nakita namin kung ang urgency na dapat hindi tayo nasa tail end. His guidance is to look for ways na nandun tayo nauna tayo sa pag-roll out. And we saw that there is a way. Talagang napakahirap natin kasi yung RA 9184 does not allow us to yung tinatawag na advance commitment, and it only with the approval of the President. So ginawa namin, we made the research and we saw that the ADB, the Asian Development Bank, offers yung tinatawag ng loan for advance market commitment. And it does not limit yung natin kung magsano kung pagka nagkaroon tayo ng contract with the vaccine company, pwede nating elevate sa international negotiation ang natin. So with that, nung nakita namin na pwedeng gamitin yung ADB as a financing strategy, we made the presentation to him last early November, and he approved it immediately. So yun ang nakita namin na kung mag-install tayo yung sa ating procurement law, na talagang napakahirap. It's very hard to accomplish because we are only allowed to have yung advance market for only advance payment for 15%, which yung advance market commitment require us to have at least 50% advance market commitment. So yun lang po ang po namin na talagang at least the president saw the nature of the procurement process, and nakita niya na talagang magiging maganda if we will use yung multilateral system, which the other countries use through the ADB and also through multilateral arrangement.
Sir, you were saying that in November pa yan, sir, yung last month lang yung na-find out nyo ng way to use the multilateral agencies as a funding source. I'm just wondering, sir, could we not have found that solution earlier? Kasi, sir, like Indonesia, they were already in talks with China, like they were going to China to look at the vaccine preparations in August pa lang. So, sir, parang medyo behind tayo, the way I see it, in terms of finding a way to secure the supply. Can you just explain how yun na-affect yung sinasabi ni President noong September with the timeline of our securing a supply? Yeah.
I believe hindi rin natin magagamit yung ATB kasi the ATB will unlock it sa December 15 pa. So yung unlocking of the budget is December 15. Even na alam natin na pwede natin gamitin yon, if the fund is not available for ADB, hindi natin na talaga hindi natin magagamit pa rin yon. So that's why when the ADB announced that there is na 9 billion, kailan lang sila nag-announce there is a 9 billion for their clients to be to avail it. Yun ang ginawa natin. And then that's why nung malaman namin na available lang ADB, we applied for it, and then we were able to unlock it. Most likely baka ngayon that's why we are negotiating for Tuesday para at least ma-consummate na namin yung contract within the year. So yung hindi siya late kasi ang natin is nakikita natin na talagang hindi naman din madami yung tinatawag nating delivery of the vaccine is not only dependent on the procurement process, it is dependent on the global supply chain.
Okay, so sir, last question. Yung initial ni President na allowing advance payments, the condition there is we can only allow advance payments if the funding source is a multilateral agency. Tama po ba? Hindi pwedeng from GAA or any other source? Yes,
kasi sa GAA, very limited. Very talaga. We already talked with the COA at saka talaga napakahirap ang natin. So we are the only country with that has that difficulty. Other countries have a liberal law on procurement. But we are very limited with 9184.
All right, thank you, sir.
And, let me put it in context sa PIA, Yung konteksto ng sinabi ni Presidente, ayaw niya yung Western kasi nga humingi ng advance, Kaya he's looking forward to the Chinese and the Russian na walang advance. Lahat naman ng sinabi ni Presidente tama, At hindi lang naman para sa Pilipinas 'yan. For all other countries who are not wealthy, yan po ang naging polisiya ng mga mayayaman. Siyempre, sila muna, Okay. Yusek Roque, please.
Yes, question from Laila Salaveria. Does the palace see the need to intervene in the issues concerning the cashless toll system? What does it think of the toll regulatory board's handling of the problem?
Hinahayaan po natin yan sa TRB, At ang DILG naman po ay pumasok na rin po sa eksena at hiniyakat ang mga lokal na pamalaan at ang operator na expressway na ayusin na itong gusot nito.
Opo. Question from Pia Gutierrez ng ABS-CBN. Update on the budget, natanggap na po ba ng Malacanang?
As of 12 noon, before the press briefing, wala pa po.
Reaction daw po sa sinabi ni Senator Lacson that Malacanang should start its review of the 2021 budget with the supposed dubious items in the budget of the DPWH. He said that in the BICAM report, 83.87 billion of DPWH infra projects migrated to new areas, while appropriations worth 55.52 billion disappeared. As if it wasn't enough to satisfy their greed, they cut the budgets of other departments by 28.35 billion.
Well, una-una po, bago mag-review, dapat isubmit. Pangalawa po, meron na pong proven track record ng presidente na hindi naman siya sasang-ayon sa mga kababalaghan na po pwedeng gawin sa budget dahil nung minsan vinito na niya lahat yung mga questionable na mga items sa budget. So I think Senator Lacson can be confident na hindi lulusot yan sa ating presidente.
From Rosalie Cos ng UNTV, may we get your reaction to Dr. Tony Lechon's recent statement? I quote, "Isn't it disturbing that the government is still prioritizing the vaccines for which there are not enough safety and efficacy data? Perhaps we need to know the matrix of or guidelines on the priority list. Transparency is key, safety is paramount." End of quote. Priority po ba natin ang Chinese vaccine dahil wala tayong choice? How do we address concerns na walang enough safety data kaugnay ng bakuna?
Alam mo, tatapatin ko na si Dr. Lechon. Na-edit lang po sa mga talk of the people pero ang daming beses na po kayong namura ng presidente. Kasi ang sabi niya, kung ano-anong sinasabi mo, yung pala, nagnanais ka lang ng posisyon sa gobyerno. Next time po, murahin kayo ni Presidente, I will insist it will be shown to the people. Baka akalain nyo, natutuwa ang Presidente sa inyo. Hindi po. And all the other cabinet members who have been in attendance in the recording of the talk to the people can attest to this. So, wala na po akong masasabi. Sasabihin ko na lang next time, pag nagmura ang Presidente laban sa kanya, ipakita sa buong taong bayan na.
Si Spokes, pwede ako magdagdag. Kasi
yes.
si Lechon, dati naming NTF,
Pero you vouch for it po, no, Secretary Galvez, no? Baka akalain kasi ni Dr. Lechon, natutuwa ang Presidente. Sinabi ko ng katotohanan, no?
Opo, tama po yung sinabi po ni Secretary Roque na talagang very questionable yung mga question yan. Tsaka sa NTF, nagsama po kami. Mahirap po kasi kasama, may sariling mundo.
Mas maganda yung linya po, Secretary Galvez. Thank you. Okay, next question please.
Question from Ace Romero para po kay Secretary Galvez. May balak po ba ang gobyerno na i-hold muna o pansamantalang itigil ang negotiations with Sinovac given na may bribery allegations po? Mananatili pa rin bang Sinovac ang unang bakuna na gagamitin kahit may mga ganitong issue ang Sinovac?
Yan po ay po namin, tinanong din po namin po yan sa ano po natin sa ating mga regulatory board, and they will examine those allegations, and we found out that that allegations was during the year 2017, and we are talking with also with Sinovac. We feel that in fairness to them, they have given us a lot of after sales previous na talaga nakita namin maganda yung magiging serbisyo ng Sinovac, including yung tinatawag nating apps for after the inoculation. So ine-evaluate namin lahat yung mga tinatawag natin na mga head of terms at saka yung tinatawag natin yung mga supply agreements ng mga different companies. And we saw that the Sinovac will be having a rollout sa Indonesia and other countries in Brazil. So we saw yung kanyang mga tinatawag na pre-ordered na galing din ng mga tinatawag nating mga magagaling din mga countries. And we saw that the ongoing negotiation that we have is very clean and very open.
Opo. Question po mula kay Vance Fernandez para po kay Secretary Galvez. Is the Philippines daw po starting a training program for vaccinations? Who will administer the new COVID-19 vaccines when they arrive?
Pwede pakiulit na nagkaroon po ng glitches po yung po. Sir.
Opo. Tanong po ni Vance Fernandez, is the Philippines starting a training daw program for vaccination? Who will administer the new COVID-19 vaccines kapag dumating na po ito sa bansa?
Sa ngayon po, may malawakan po tayong tinatawag na vaccine logistics summit. It will be undertaken sa this coming December 16. Ang lahat po ng mga stakeholders, including yung mga tinatawag nating mga medical professionals and also academe, including yung mga stakeholders natin, we will have a massive logistics summit. Natitingnan po lahat po ito, kasama po yung lahat ng mga kapangangailangan po natin in terms of mobilization at saka ilang vaccinator ang kailangan natin and how we will deploy them and train them. So yun po, pag ano po yan, and then we will have yung tinatawag nating master list o yung tinatawag nating war room questions na dapat po nating malaman. So sa ano po natin, we can say that I believe after the logistics summit workshop, makikita po natin ilan po ang kailangan po natin ng mga vaccinators at saka ilan po ang cold chain na mga pangailangan natin and all the administrating mga facilities including public and private hospitals kasama po yun. We are very confident that we can be prepared before the vaccine arrive.
Question from Sam Medinilla po. For Secretary Roque, kailan po kaya expected mapirmahan ni President Rodrigo Duterte ang 2021 national budget? Confident po kaya ang Palace na makapasa po ito in time para makakomply sa 15-day publication rule?
Yun na nga po ang kaba ko. Mukhang wala kaming Pasko dahil hindi pa nga namin nare-receive ang budget. Bubusisiin pa yan. Baka po habang lahat kayo nagdidiwang, kami dito sa palasyo nagbubusisi ng national budget. Pero kinakailangan po mapirmahan yan with or without veto at magkaroon po ng sapat na panahon para ma-publish yan dahil we cannot afford nga po a reenacted budget. No? So I would say it has to be soon. Pero, ulitin ko po, it has to be received first dahil kinakailangan reviewin po.
Second question po niya, ano po kaya ang magiging topic ng expected cabinet meeting later?
Hindi ko pa muna nakukuha ang agenda, no? But anyway, I will be giving updates, no? In the course of the cabinet meeting and tomorrow in our regular press briefing.
Question from Prince Goles of Abante Politico. May talk to the nation po ba si President Duterte mamayang gabi?
Dahil po sa cabinet meeting wala, but it was rescheduled for Wednesday. Okay na? Narinig niyo?
Okay. Secretary, pakiulit po. Medyo nag-chat po kayo.
It was canceled for today because of the cabinet meeting, but it was rescheduled for Wednesday.
Okay, thank you, Secretary. Tanong naman po ni Pia Gutierrez, additional question niya, may decision na ba ang IATF on the use of firecrackers this new year?
Wala pa po dahil ang sabi ni Presidente, kino-contemplate na po niya na ipagbawal sa 2021, meaning next year. No? Pero wala pong resolution ng IATF dahil presidential action po ang mangyayari dyan.
Opo. So far, Secretary, yun po ang ating mga tanong.
Ay nako, maraming salamat po, no? At napakamalaman ang ating naging discussion. Nagpapasalamat po tayo sa ating mga kasama sa Malacanang Press Corps, kay Yusek Roque, at siyempre po sa ating suki, Secretary Galvez, and our suki also, Ambassador Santa Romana. Maraming salamat po. Napakadami pong impormasyon na nakalap ang ating mga taong bayan sa importanteng usapin tungkol sa bakuna. So dahil wala na po tayong oras at ang tingin ko sa inyong lahat ay pagkain, sa ngalan po ng ating Presidente Rodrigo Roa Duterte, ito po yung spokes na nagsasabi na ang pamaskong handog po ay yung pag-asa na meron ng solusyon sa pandemya at ito nga po ang bakuna. Pero sana abutan nating lahat yung pag-asang yan. Samantala po, mask, hugas, iwas. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year po sa inyo.